Dr. Govindanguti, Venuchatan, respected atomic energy scientists. Indeed, I consider it a great privilege and I am proud to be here today. I have a reason why I say this. It's been largely a complex within me because I have been very weak in science and maths. And my father, who was quite good at maths, used to try to persuade me on the scientific path. For some reason, I think I got my mother's genes more and became more of an arts guy rather than a science guy. All throughout, I have smarted under the fact that scientists are a more eminent people. And finally, when I was about to join college, my dad and I had a very long discussion. And then I decided I will take up third group. Most of you are from Kerala and most of you are my age group or just a little elder to me. So you know what the third group means. It was a condemned group of students who would not get admission in the first, second, or even fourth group. And I joined that bunch with my father's blessings totally. He said, "Ninakku pattiyadu ee third group aanu." And we are good friends. So we decided together, we went to the principal and the principal told me, he knew my dad and he said, he was Father Rosario of Fatima College, Kollam. He said, "Nee varum mandaranlo ee third group join cheyan. Venda njan korchu samayam kuda tharam. You take up science." Then I told him, "Sir, science, father, science is meant for better human beings." He kept that pending for nearly 1 hour or so. And then my father told him, "Both of us have decided, you don't worry, let him be in economics group." I have smarted under this. I have always had friends who are science group. My best friends have always been in the science and maths groups. That is born out of this innate inferiority complex, as I call it. And then when Venuchatan told me, "Can you speak?" I was hesitant. I was hesitant for this reason, that I am going to speak to the smartest brains of India. I have come to BRC, I have come to Trombay because I was working in the Reserve Bank in Mumbai, and I have therefore interacted with the BRC people quite well. Dr. Shankar Das I used to know, and Pillai uncle, who was his neighbor, who still is his neighbor. I used to visit all of you, and I have come to within BRC. And therefore, I consider that indeed it is a great privilege to meet the best of scientists and the best of brains here today. So with a lot of fear in my mind, I venture out into this area of your doubt. Dr. Kutti tried to tell me that I should be speaking on investment. And I thought, my God, it's going to be very difficult. I've been chairman, a non-executive chairman of a bank, because the Reserve Bank, when I came back, there's one small correction. When I was deputy general manager in the Reserve Bank, I went to the College of Banking of the Central Bank of Oman. That is, they have a College of Banking. And I went there as the senior most faculty member, and then became its director. And that is what happened. So I would like to, it is a College of Banking. I was teaching also in Bankers Training College on Cadal Road, Mumbai. So at that time, I used to stay in Cadal Road, Dadar. And therefore, my kids, my family and I used to come to Anishakti Nagar to go around. I also remember very fondly that my first job was in Chembur, because that's when I first came to see. I had just being unemployed, unemployment being a problem then also. I had written all the exams possible. I had passed Insurance Corporation's WAO, Assistant Administrative Officer, just when I completed my MA. Even before the results came, I was lucky to get in. So I went to Mumbai, being what Uncle Venuchatan just said, that I am from a village. I had 1,000 rupees with me, and I knew nobody in Mumbai. So when I went at that time Bombay, and when I landed in Bombay, someone told me all South Indians stay in Chembur. So I went into. They put me onto Harbour Line, and I went on to Chembur, got onto Chembur somewhere, and then I got into a room where I had to deposit 300 rupees, and then I had to share the room in Chembur with somebody who was a total stranger. And I found that conversation was difficult with him because he did not know English. I knew Hindi, but he was not extremely conversant with, I think he was largely a migrant at that time. Having been facing these problems, I went to the general insurance company and I told that I would like to go back to my village. And then they said, "Are you a mad guy?" At that time, the basic used to be 950 rupees for WAO, which was one of the good basics. I think it was a little better than even State Bank of India PO. So I went and told them I want to quit. And these guy at the Gresham, that was in Fort, he said, the Gresham's Insurance College, he said, "Are you mad guy? You got a job, you're quitting, you're a runner away." I said, "No, sir, I'm not able to adjust." And again, he said, "Think over it one day." And that day when I got into the train in Chembur, which I had never been used to any trains until then, when I got onto the train, they caught hold of a pickpocket and before me, they hit him. And I was shocked. I was aghast that this was happening in Bombay, that somebody were all together, everybody got out of the train and hit that guy. And then I was shocked. I let the train go, got onto the next train. And when I went to the general manager of the company, one Mr. Deshmukh, I remember, I don't know, he was very old at that time. I really must thank him for a lot in life because he taught me many things. He made me sit with him. And then he told me, "Look, the job is very difficult." I said, "I'm not able to adjust." He said, "Chembur is a nice place. You'll get used to it." I said, "No, I will not. I have to get back to my." He said, "You will be unemployed." I said, "No, I'll get State Bank of India. I will go to a village." So I quit with Mr. There was 5,000 rupee bond. That's why I had to meet the general manager. I didn't have, I had only 700 rupees with me after paying off that Chembur lodge guy. So I joined State Bank of India and then the Reserve Bank. That's what so what I'm telling you is that Chembur, so every time I come to Chembur, every time I used to visit friends and family in Chembur, I was always remembering Chembur as a place which changed my outlook to life. And I think that I'm very happy to speak to all of you from Anushakti Nagar today. Now, with those very humble remarks, let me get on to my topic. My topic I have expressed a desire because I'm a banker at heart. I have been, before taking up these academic jobs, I've been a banker. One of the things which worries me and which Dr. Kutty stole all the points which I wanted to make. And when he said that we are faced with falling interest rates. And as a retiree myself, I fully share the angst and the anxiety of Dr. Kutty. Because in countries like Switzerland, you must have read, you are all well-read people. In countries like Switzerland, it has become negative interest rate, where the interest rate, I have to pay a certain fee to the bank if I want to hold on to that deposit in the bank. I'm free to take away. They want people to spend money. In economics, we have a saying, some people save to spend, others spend to save. So those of us who have saved hard-earned money over so many years suddenly find that our savings real values are coming down. Dr. Govindam Kutty made that very valid point that the inflation rate is going high. And I think that is one of the worries which I have. All of us, over a period of time, we have a wealth expectancy gap. We expect our wealth to be where they are when we left out at our retirement with our savings, and then we deposit it in our banks. and we find that the bankers are not able to discharge their duties to the extent that we would like to have it. That you have, I must confess as a banker, that I have always felt that the customer service in banks need quite a bit of improvement. But it is not just the customer service. Those are things which you can improve with some classes, with some training, with some attitudinal inputs. But what I'm talking about is that the wealth expectancy gap that has come about. I expect that my wealth will be protected in the banks. And as a banker, I am not able to assure you that. And that really is one of the reasons I left Dhanalakshmi Bank being chairman before the tenure. I'm just sharing in house with you. One of the reasons was I felt that I'm not able to discharge my duties as I would like to be. I had an acquaintance of mine stop me on the road and told me he's a retiree from the government of Kerala. He is sentimentally attached because he has already been depositing with my bank. He said, sir, chairman, I'm very happy. And I said, I am not so happy as you are, I told him. Then he said, no, that is okay, but I feel protected. Now, this word feel protected is a psychological statement, but it hits me very hard. Somebody expects you to deliver value for the wealth they have accumulated over a period of time. As a retiree, there Dr. Govindanguti again made the point which I wanted to make at the very beginning, and which learned governors of the Reserve Bank recently made. Retired governors of the Reserve Bank recently said, you all read the newspapers. Last week, they all came out and said, NPA is going to be very high. I was associated with the Narasimhan Committee. When I was in the Reserve Bank, I was in banking policy section. The first Narasimhan Committee, I was involved with it. My biggest banking achievement was that the circular which made the reform start in India was drafted with me, by me and my boss, Mr. Shivaraman, who is now retired and settled. We are very happy to start off the banking reforms process, where we first brought this income recognition, asset classification, and prudential circular. Avoid taking undue risks, classify loans on the basis of. So when we worked out that, we had high expectations. We thought at one time we will capture the non-performing assets within the system and then come out. When Mr. Manmohan Singh was the finance minister, Narasimha Rao, who was the father of all reforms, according to me, though there must have been 100 other issues, I'm not in any politics. All I'm saying is that the reforms process started because he was caught against the wall. We had only 15 days. 15 days imports. I was in the Deputy Governor Janaki Raman's room. And at that time, he doesn't speak much to any of his colleagues. But that day he asked me, sit down, he said. And he likes me, but he doesn't share any secrets with me. But that day he shared a state secret with me. He said, there is only 15 days, Jay. And I don't think, I'm getting calls from other people saying we'll remit money, but no questions must be asked. And he was a man of integrity, one of the greatest people I have worked with. He's no more now. Janaki Raman sir said, I don't have money to pay for my 15th day imports. Faced with this situation, we went in. And this Narasimhan Committee, which you and I know, is actually IMF report. It has, I'm sharing with you because you are an in-house group. And now it is history. It was actually given by the IMF. IMF said that if you want money, you do what I say. And this Narasimha Rao was an ace politician. He called Narasimha and said, you are a governor of the Reserve Bank earlier. You listen to me. And he, being from Hyderabad, knew him personally. So he said, make this report. So somebody from at that time, the Department of Banking Operations was in corporate. So on the 5th floor, we were sitting when I was called, and I said, one old hand whom Narasimham knew personally, he wanted to draft this report. And that man was sent out from policy section to Hyderabad, so that the secret was kept, that it was retyped as Narasimham report. The other signatories, I believe, were asked to sign on the dotted line. But that is national interest. That is national interest. Faced with that situation, when we estimated what would be the total quantum of non-performing assets, faced with such a situation, then we felt that there should be payment coming from the taxpayer, and the budget made a provision of, if I remember, maybe around 50,000 crores or something like that. I'm not remembering the exact figure, but we prepared in a note in our central office, and that was shared with the government of India. And the government of India, Manmohan Singh, said that they would release the funds to the banks. So we made at that time what I thought in my mind, in my small mind, I thought that this would be one-time payment and the taxpayer has to pay the penalty for only one time. We had at that time a nationalized bank. Some of you will remember this bank, New Bank of India. At that time, this New Bank of India had a non-performing asset ratio of nearly 30%. I was the one who was drafting. We in the Reserve Bank have a continuously updating recommended. We call it the recommended. We have a one-page estimation of the real and exchangeable value of the assets of the bank. And this bank, out of every 100 rupees given out as loan, 30 to 37 rupees, 30 to 37 rupees was non-performing then. And we had a managing director, I remember his name, Suneja, who would come. And when the deputy governor at that time was one Mr. D.R. Mehta, who was a previously chief secretary of the government of Rajasthan. And I was working directly under him. And he said, D.R. Mehta asked him questions. He just didn't have answers. What I'm saying is that there is what I call an abandonment of responsibilities in the banking executives. Whose money? So when we calculated, we found that unless the government makes the payment, the government has to make the payment to what Dr. Govindanguti mentioned, capital adequacy. Now, this capital adequacy, you know, as scientists, you're quick on figures. I'm not so fast. We expect that the bank will have a buffer in its capital to absorb any possible losses. And these banks were hemorrhaging with losses. UCO Bank, you know that bank. It declared publicly, without even that, it went public saying that it had losses. I don't go into all the stories. I have a lot of stories. That is not of relevance to us. The point I'm making is, in the 90s, when the reforms came, 1992 was the circular. We had paid by 1994, we had paid the banks a certain sum of money, which was your money, taxpayers' money. That taxpayers' money was paid by the government of India then. And now, many years later, when I come back, I find, when I go back to banking and read on banking, I find that we have now paid 121,000 crores to these banks to rebuild these banks' balance sheets. Whose money is it anyway? It is not the politicians' money. It is your hard-earned money. As a taxpayer, even now you and I pay taxes. As retirees, we have to pay taxes. We belong to that category which look forward to paying taxes. During our days, there was MR Pi who protected the depositors' interest. But I don't see any MR Pis. And that is why I requested Venucharan, can I talk on this topic? Because you and I have to be worried. The government in 2017 brought a bill. They brought a bill in 2017. You must have read that in the papers, according to which they had a bail-in clause. It was brought onto the floor of the house with a bail-in clause. What does bail-in mean? That if the bank is making losses, the depositor shall pay for it. How does he pay for it? They convert his deposits into assets on the banking side. That is, it becomes the bank's own. You must all have heard of this buyer beware, caveat emptor, they say in Latin. buyer beware. You say the buyer must be aware. When you go and buy a product, you have to be aware. So they say similarly, in banking, the principle could well be that the depositor, if he deposits money, should be well aware of where he is depositing money. And that is the core of the issue which I want to leave with you. Fortunately, there was a lot of resistance, and I remember the top politician secretary rang me up. I was in the hospital with my father-in-law in Trivandrum when this bill was being discussed. I had no idea about this bill. I got a phone call from a politician's private political secretary, a top politicians, a very top politicians. He said, "Sir, I have a doubt on this." I said, "What doubt, sir?" "Sir, you are a bill on the Sir, your views on that so and so wants to know." I said, "I'm in the hospital. I've not had in-depth analysis of it. I'll make an in-depth analysis and I'll come back to you by afternoon." So I was sitting in the pay ward there in the hospital. I had my computer laptop with me, collected all the information, and I went back and said, "This is damaging if it goes through." I knew that these guys will get together and see that it is scuttled. They did that. But the Damocles sword hangs over your head. My learned scientists, I really feel that your deposits may be at stake if supposing some bureaucrat decides to re-invoke that. Because if in the current, now at the current situation, I am in the COVID stage where you are looking at an economy which is all going downhill. I'm not being negative. I'm being realistic. I'm an economist. I'm a student of economics. I'm not an economist. I'm a student of, if I knew maths better, I would be an economist, because economics is all about maths. So it's your cup of tea. But I am basically an economics student. Even at this age, I study economics. And I feel we must be very cautious of the fact that a minus 23% growth rate, to build over that, it will take time. Now the banks have given moratorium. Nearly 50%, the Reserve Bank of India's latest data shows that nearly 50% of the outstandings have called for moratorium, which the government has given, or the Reserve Bank has given. Now this moratorium which has come in will hurt the borrower, because you have the cascading effect of the interest rate coming on you. I had my taxi neighbor in my village call me up. He calls me Cheta. He said, "Cheta, interest he knows English, because he uses the word wave, because he's educated guy, but he's unemployed, so he's a taxi driver." So he said, "Cheta, the wave it will come on you." Now, in the Honorable Supreme Court, where this case is being discussed, I understand that one of the reasons why the court is asking, why do you want to charge interest? These people have no incomes now. Now the taxi driver has no income. So naturally his case is justified. How can you charge interest on him? But they said, so one of the arguments made by, I think, Mukul Rostogi for the State Bank of India is, because everybody's got into that. They said that if you don't permit us to charge interest, we will have to reduce the interest rates of the depositors. That must be because these Mukul Rostogi knows that the honorable justices also will have deposits. So naturally they will think twice before taking that rule. In banking, you have to pay interest. Of course, yes, you are right. But in extraordinary circumstances, you must have extraordinary results, extraordinary solutions. Now, the solutions cannot be laid at the feet of, or at the doors of a retired employee who has worked so long and slogged to have his deposits in the bank. And what have they done? They have reduced interest rates. The Reserve Bank of India has reduced 135 basis points even before. And then, as Dr. Kutty said, the inflation rate is going. So your inflation rate is going, your interest rate is reduced. That means my real income has come down. Now we need an MRP, We need somebody to stand up for the depositors and tell the government and tell the governor of the Reserve Bank, this cannot continue. You cannot take the depositor as saved. All business. When I joined the State Bank of India as a probationary officer in 1980, immediately after GIC, when I came back, luckily State Bank of India called me. My first job was as deposit mobilization officer, not as understudy, not as officer. I had to understudy that deposit. We have a 10-month training program. And then as a probationary officer, my job, at that time, I was told the most important resource in the bank is but the depositor. So you and I save our money. And now, as he said, under VCare scheme of the State Bank of India, you will get maximum 6.2. Now you put money in your stock market. Of course, I must tell you, there was this question, where do I put my money? All of you are wealthy people. So where we are looking at depositors getting hit. Now you can put your money in stock markets. The highest growth rate has been in 31% growth rate over, or 31 or 32, I forget the figures. About 32% growth rate return has come over the last several years in this, those who have put money in stock market. But you and I have to be cautious. You know, you've been in Mumbai. You know how Mumbai Stock Exchange works. we have seen Harshad Mehta. I have seen Harshad Mehta. You have seen Ketan Parekh. And then you see what has happened to the bank last couple of, you had Yes Bank problem. Luckily, someone intervened, and then you had the other cooperative bank problem. So all that I'm saying is that the depositor feels, and then you start starting payment of deposits for no fault of his. You gave the loans and it went. Nirav Modi took 23,000 crores out of the system from Punjab National Bank. And what were you doing? Somebody has to own up responsibility. It is the depositor's money. Stake. If supposing Punjab National Bank cracks, and if the bail-in clause is invoked, the bail-in clause is a hypothetical clause. But in America, let us remember that everybody talks about American systems, American pattern. You had Raghuram Rajan who talked so big. He brought in those unit banks, small banks. All of us, I like his economics, but I don't like his dosha economics is good. But he brought in unit, you already had problems. Now you are bringing in more banks and bringing more problems. Try to solve the problems. Narasimhan Gamatti said have large banks. Why do we say large banks? Because they have the ability to withstand losses. The three banks in India are classified as TBTF, too big to fail. State Bank of India, ICICI Bank, and HDFC Bank. And you saw, number two is ICICI Bank. You saw in ICICI Bank what happened. Chanda Kochar gave money to her husband's friends. Was there no questions asked? Was there no? So I feel it is an unattractive proposition to put my money in bank. I'm not protected there. I'm not protected here. Maybe you can put up to 15 lakhs. You will ask me a question, where do I put my money then? I am raising these issues with you out of angst and anxiety. I'd like, maybe there are issues which we should be discussing more. And I would like to stop at this point and have questions, because I have been told that there will be questions and I have to answer. If I cannot answer those questions, I will try to answer it. I will send a message across to the organizers. Because as I told you, I'm a limited brains guy, not a science guy. And therefore, all the questions I may not be able to answer. But I know I'm under audit. Questions, please.
Sir, I am Papajan here. I have got a small question to ask you.
Yes,
what
sir.
are the precautionary measures taken by the Reserve Bank of India or Government of India against big industries, defaulters, and absconding to foreign country? That is question number one. Number two, are the official accountable for procedure lapse, if any?
Sir, I really wish I had the answers for that, sir. But I'll tell you what are the from the Reserve. I always protect the Reserve Bank. But I feel that, like you you're very professional. In the Reserve Bank, BRC signed atomic energy has progressed so much because somebody like Nehru left it to Baba and his company. They did not intervene. In the Reserve Bank also, to a large extent, even when I interact with them, even now, I feel that that professionalism is maintained, unlike in many other areas. So precautionary measures taken by the Reserve Bank, there is a circular issue. But I'll tell you something. You asked this question with regard. Let's look at Nirav Modi. Nirav Modi's
Yes.
case, the money was given by Punjab National Bank on
Yes.
called an LOU, letter of undertaking. Now, as a banker for many years, I know letter of credit. There is no letter of undertaking in our dictionary at the time when I was a banker. But somewhere along the line, somebody in Harshad Mehta's case, some of you will remember 90. Do you remember Harshad Mehta?
Yes. Yes, sir.
In Mehta's case, he had devised a system called banker's guarantee. And the entire money was funded through bankers' guarantee. Here, the entire money was funded through letter of undertaking. So, whether it is Harshad Mehta or whether it is Nirav Modi, the criminal does the same pattern. Our system is not able to stop it. It is because Harshad Mehta was personally known to many top people. Now he is no more. I can tell you that my then at one of my senior most colleagues had to resign from the Reserve Bank of India because of this Harshad Mehta case. There was a joint parliamentary committee. He was asked by somebody topper, even higher than him, to go and talk to somebody in State Bank of India for Harshad Mehta. He had to leave his job because George Fernandez, who was a firebrand at that time, asked him, "Are you doing banking or kinship banking?" He had no answer. He told me personally, because he was innocent, but he got caught in this. So many innocent people get caught because they have patronage. Nirav Modi, I am told, was seen at every. Your Sahara is another classic example. Sahara, do you know where it stands today? Nobody knows. SEBI went after him, hammer and tongs. What happened? Nothing happened. So we are looking at cases which are not happening. Accountability is a big issue. I really hope that there is more accountability.
Yeah, sir.
But the Reserve Bank does issue circulars if they abide by those circulars. But I have felt that the Reserve Bank does not have teeth in many cases. In many cases, it does not have teeth. That is why I want the depositors to unite and come forth and make a big issue. Like in the United States, consumers have a big say. Why was driven by that when he started this depositor? So that they protect the depositors' interest. So I feel that there must be a watchdog which can continuously monitor